Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Every month, I do a video on the best board game expansions and updated and new editions of board games hitting retail. This is June 2023. I appreciate you being here. I talk with a lot of publishers about these releases and try to figure out the best information so that I can give it to you, so that you know what's going on, so that you can get what you want, because you only want what you want. So let's get into it. We got a lot of great expansions and new editions hitting retail this month. Hey! 25th Century Games is releasing Space Explorers Age of Ambition. Space Explorers is a game I really like that came out maybe 3 years ago. It is an engine building game, so if you are a fan of games like Splendor or Century or It's a Wonderful World, I think Space Explorers really fits well into that genre. It's got really cool retro artwork, and it's got space age, the space age discovery sort of theme to it. And in the game, you are recruiting specialists, and then based on certain icons, it will build an engine so that you can get future specialists easily, and they're going to give you different special abilities and stuff like that. It's a game I really liked. Well, this expansion, the Age of Ambition expansion, has 7 separate modules in the game. You can add them to the game in any combination and use up to 3 modules at a time. So a lot of replayability with this expansion. Things, the modules are going to let you do things like enlisting the support of influential politicians, powerful military leaders, renowned scientists. You're going to try to overcome crises and reach your strategic goals, launch cutting-edge spacecraft, and achieve breakthroughs in research. So, the space exploration. I love space games. I love space themes. And Space Explorers is not really a fantasy one. It's more grounded in sort of real world. We need to get a team together to go to space because we need a lot of specialists to get there. Asmodee is releasing the Lord of the Rings, the card game, Dream Chaser Hero expansion. This is an expansion to the Lord of the Rings card game. That is a cooperative card game where you are going through scenarios and on adventures and things like that. So this works for the card game. It is a card game, but it includes 8 playable heroes and all of the other player cards and customization options originally featured in the Grey Havens and the Dream Chaser cycle of content. So they've released a lot of different cards and components for the Lord of the Rings card game over the years, and this is combining all of this stuff from the Dream Chaser cycle into a single product. So, if you weren't able to get all those originally, or if you're just a fan of the Lord of the Rings card game, or even the Lord of the Rings in general, this one's probably good for you. 1 to 4 players, plays in 30 minutes. And this expansion can be used to enhance or build or enhance player decks for any of the Lord of the Rings the card game scenario or campaign. Asmodee is releasing 3 different expansions to the Witcher board game. So most of you probably know that I do a monthly video on the best new games coming to retail, and The Witcher is one of the bigger games, one of the more hyped games that hit retail in June, one of the bigger box games. It was a exploration game based on the Witcher IP, where you played as these sort of old-timey, old-school monster slayers, and you were exploring the board and trying to fight monsters and level up your Witcher with new powers and new abilities. So there are 3 different expansions to that game if you want to add a lot of content right from the get-go, because the Witcher Old World just came out this month. So some of the expansions, we have the Witcher Old World Mages. So in the base game, you can only play as Witchers. There are various different Witchers you can play as, but everybody is playing as Witchers. Well, this introduces 5 new mage characters. So each of the characters has a unique miniature, a full set of components that include an individual deck and a player board with an individual specialty. And so you can play either, you can play as all mages, you can combine witchers and mages into the world, so you can have witchers fighting mages. So yeah, and the miniatures look cool for sure. Speaking of miniatures, the next expansion is The Witcher Old World Legendary Hunt. This expansion includes 7 huge miniatures, 7 monster cards with other special tokens and cards. So, it's all about really these huge monster miniatures. They are legendary monsters that you have to fight. So you are going to spend the game going on quests and sort of preparing, but you can only win the game if you kill a legendary monster. So you are going to need to level up your Witcher as this monster goes around the board and leaves a path of destruction in its wake. So you're going to have to stay out of its way until you're ready to fight him and then try to beat him. So yeah, that seems, and there are 7 different huge miniatures and they all look really, really cool. I mean, if these are the types of miniatures you just put on your wall to display, just because they look super cool. Yeah. And the last one of these expansions for The Witcher Old World is Skellige. Skellige. I don't know. I never read The Witcher, so I'm sorry to all the huge fans that are very mad at me right now for how I'm saying that. But essentially, it adds a new location. It is you can sail to Skellige in the game. When you use this expansion, you can sail to this new land, and there will be sea adventures, and you can uncover new islands. So it will include a sizable board extension with all new locations and location tokens. So your map gets bigger and more interesting. There's different ways to travel to the islands, different things to explore, different quests and adventures to go on. A lot of different stuff to explore. So, it's pretty wild. A lot of times, obviously, expansions come out after the base game, a year or 2 after the base game, to try to keep it relevant and keep it more, keep it interesting for people and to add new content to it. Well, we got all of these expansions right now. So, same month that the base game came out. Lucky Duck is releasing It's a Wonderful World Leisure and Decadence. When I was mentioning earlier Space Explorers, I mentioned that it was similar to It's a Wonderful World. It's a Wonderful World is one of my all-time favorite engine building games. It's super cool. You're drafting cards and then using those cards to get cubes and using those cubes to finish other cards, and it's a really cool thinky engine. It's the type of game where I mumble my strategy out loud because I'm thinking so much, and I give away my strategy and then people use it against me. I'm like, oh, if I do this, then I can get this card and stuff. And then people are like, oh, that's what you're planning to do? Well, I'll take that card then. So don't mumble your strategy out loud. It's a bad habit that I get into. So Leisure and Decadence, the base game has no cooperative or scenario-based things in it at all. It's just a 45-minute game. Well, the Leisure and Decadence expansion introduces new scenarios, and there are there's a bunch of hidden content that you get to add to the game. So it's a campaign expansion with multiple envelopes, and each envelope introduces a new scenario. So all the added components and cards can be used with the core game, even if you have completed the campaign. And it's not a legacy game. You won't be changing any of the components. You won't be ripping anything up. So the cards can be reset and the campaign played again in order to discover multiple possible endings. So yeah, if you want to, this is one I'm like, well, I never really thought about adding a campaign to It's a Wonderful World, but I love the game, so maybe I will. Maybe I just might. Plaid Hat Games is releasing Ashes Reborn, Red Rains, The Corpse of Viros. This is an expansion to their game Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenixborn. That game was a two-player expandable card game where players took on the roles of Phoenixborns, or demigods and protectors of their world. So one of the interesting things about this expansion is, the original game was a two-player game where you were going head-to-head. This introduces a whole new way to play the game. It turns Ashes Reborn into a solitaire or cooperative 1 to 2 player experience. Players band together to fend off and slay one of the fiendish chimera. And the chimera are towering monstrosities that threaten to wipe humanity from the face of the planet. So this is again, a 1 to 2 player game that plays in 30 to 60 minutes that's medium weight. So if you liked Ashes Reborn, this is a whole different way to play the game. Whoa, really throwing a curveball here to you, Plaid Hat Games. You don't know what hit you. Stoneblade Entertainment is releasing the first expansion to their game SolForge Fusion. This is called Battle for Whitefang Pass. So SolForge Fusion is an interesting game. It's like a Magic the Gathering type of two-player head-to-head card battling game, but they use an artificial intelligence to ensure that every deck of cards in SolForge Fusion is entirely unique. You will never see the same pack twice. You will never see the same deck of cards twice. They change up stuff in all of the decks, and it's pretty interesting to know that you're always going to have something unique. Now, certain types of cards are more rare and things like that than other types of cards, so there is still that collectible nature of it, like Magic. But it's a cool system, and it's a fun game. Well, this, like I said, is SolForge Fusion's first expansion, and it features new Forgeborn abilities and over 10,000 new cards, including new card types like Exalts and Soulbind. So, and like the original base game, every deck is unique and everything is fully compatible with SolForge Fusion sets, so you can combine any two decks to play. Some of the special things, Soulbind cards, these are one of the new things that's introduced here. They will summon their counterparts from outside the game to join the fray. There's also all new rare foil decks that will be randomly distributed throughout the booster packs. So if you're a fan of card games, if you're a fan of card battlers, this is one to check out for sure. So those are the expansions that I have coming to retail, but as I do every month, I like to include new additions in this game too. We have a lot of new additions that are hitting retail all the time. You know, somebody's taking a game from 10, 20, 30 years ago and making it cool, making it different, making it better. And so we have a number of those that I'm excited about this month. Actually, a lot of them are coming from Funko Games. Funko also released a lot of games to retail this month, just new games, so this is a big month for them. One of the ones I want to talk about from Funko is Big Boss. This is a game from like 1994, so almost a 30-year-old game that's getting a new edition right now. And it's I actually had a chance to play this one not like that long ago, and it's great. It's sort of like everything that Monopoly wishes it could be is Big Boss. You are buying plots, building buildings, but nobody is controlling any of the buildings or the businesses. You are instead buying shares in the various businesses around the board. And as businesses grow, your shares become more valuable and you're trying to have the most money at the end of the game. Plays 2 to 6 players in about 90 minutes. And this is they say it's the first ever English edition of the classic game. I didn't know that the classic game was never in English. So Again, this is it's Wolfgang Kramer, very famous board game designer. This was an early game from them, and so here you have a cool new edition with like it's got really cool buildings in it. The component quality is really great, so it's got a refreshed design. It's got new components, all that sort of stuff. It's also got some rule changes. But one of the cool things is they include the original rules in the box, in the game, at the back of the rule book. So you can either play it with like new, refreshed rules that are aiming to make the game a little bit easier and a little bit, I think, easier to get into actually. And or if you're like, no, I always wanted to play the original game, they have those rules. They have how you can play it in there as well. So I think that's a good job. Funko is also releasing the 25th anniversary edition of Cranium, which definitely made me feel old because Cranium is a game I played with my family a bunch when I was a teenager, and I was like, oh, 25 years old, huh? Okay, yep. Cranium is, honestly, it was probably one of the games I played the most with my family during my teenage years. It's a very silly party game. It's a family weight party game where it kind of shoved everything from other games together into one game. There's like charade stuff, there's trivia stuff, there's Pictionary stuff. All of those sort of classic party game stuff kind of gets represented in different categories in Cranium. So this new edition looks really cool. They made this really cool holder for it, and so it keeps everything very neat and tidy and looks really good on the table. It has a lot of the same classic activities that you like. It's got the cranium clay in it. It's got all that sort of stuff, but it also adds some new challenges to it. Like one of the ones I like is a person holds a pen and then you have to hold a whiteboard up to the pen and try to draw something without breaking the contact of the pen on the page. So that wasn't in the original game, and so it keeps it updated, it keeps it refreshed, it keeps it feeling interesting and new for a modern audience in a modern world right now. So if you really liked Cranium like I did when I was a kid, here's an updated version that looks great on the table and adds some new fun, silly challenges. Cranium was always great for getting a laugh, for like, making you do something dumb. I remember a time where my mom had to like put a pot on her head and sit underneath the table, just something dumb like that. Funko is also releasing Cranium Hoopla. So this is like a quicker, smaller version of Cranium. So it's similar in that it has silly challenges, including drawing and acting out and stuff like that, but it makes it a fully cooperative game. So instead of trying to beat the other team, you are now trying to beat a timer. It's a 15-minute timer, and you're trying to get people to guess the thing you're doing and get all of them before the 15-minute timer runs out. So it's a new edition because it's got all new cards, modern references, right? You might have to, do something like Justin Bieber. Well, he probably wasn't in the game 20 years ago. That sort of thing. So if you like family cooperative party games, Cranium Hoopla is good for you. And then lastly, Funko has Cranium Hullabaloo, and this is a very much of a kids game. So they've got a few different sort of cranium options for you here. You can have stuff for little kids, for families, or even for adults. Cranium Hullabaloo is a game where you put out all these little tile things. I don't really know what you call mats, maybe. You put out these mats on the ground, and they have different colors and shapes, and then you have an app with the game, and you play an app, and it'll tell you to wiggle over to a triangle, and you have to move over to a triangle and wiggle your body, or you have to twist your way to a green spot. And so it's just trying to get kids to get up and do silly movements with their body and have a silly fun time, giggling and wiggling. That's what I like to call this game. It's a giggle and wiggle game. Gale Force 9 is releasing an updated version of Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. I cannot tell you what is updated about this game. I've looked online a bunch, I've talked to them, and I don't know what has changed from this edition to the previous edition that came out 3 years ago, but they're calling it an updated version. So if you could find something online, be my guest, but I couldn't find anything online about how it's updated. But it is a cooperative survival board game set in the Aliens world. You play as a team of Marines going in, and you are trying to survive and complete scenarios and stuff. So if you like Aliens, this was a game that I've seen a lot of people online like, but they didn't do that big of a print run originally, so now it's coming back. So if you've always wanted to play this one, now's your chance to get on board. Cosmos is releasing Exit the Game, The Disappearance of Sherlock Holmes. So there are a lot of games in the Exit line of games. They are one-time playable exit room type of games, escape room type games, where you will be solving puzzles and completing riddles and all of these sort of things to move the narrative forward and figure out the mystery. And it is a one-time use game in that you will be destroying cards, you'll be cutting things up, you'll be combining things, all of that sort of stuff. So you can't finish it and give it away. But they're fairly cheap, and there's a lot of games in the series. There's a lot of different exit games. So this one, The Disappearance of Sherlock Holmes, you can imagine it is a Sherlock Holmes theme. So the famous detective is said to have murdered the writer Ignatius Lloyd and had to go into hiding. But how did he become the prime suspect in this murder case, and what role does Moriarty play? So try to figure it out. Try to clear Sherlock Holmes' name in this new exit game. Trick or Treat Studios is releasing a couple of updated editions of the old Hangbox games, Halloween Party and Tricks and Treats. So these are small box card games. Halloween Party came out in 2004, so it's nice that it's getting an updated edition here. It's a fast-paced card game for 3 to 6 players, and on Halloween night, you're having a Halloween party, and there is regularly a knock at your door. New guests are arriving at the party, but you want to decide whether to open the door or not because you want to have the most desirable guests. You want nice people coming to your Halloween party. You don't want, poor souls that will scare your guests or vampires that will eat your guests or things like that. You want to open your door to nice people. So it's a bluffing game where you are trying to figure out who's knocking on your door. And then last, Tricks and Treats is also a small box card game that plays in about 20 minutes. It's very family friendly. You are placing candy into several Halloween candy baskets on the table, but you only are responsible for one. Each player is responsible for one of the baskets, but you don't know what everybody is going for. And so I can put candy into any Halloween basket to try to throw you off my scent. But if other players can figure out which basket is yours, they can tattle on you and bump you out of the game. So 10-minute playtime, really light and silly. So that's what I got for you. Those are the best expansions and new editions of board games hitting retail in June 2023. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing to my channel and sharing this video. I really appreciate it. If you can also find me on other places like TikTok, where I've got a couple 100,000 followers on there. I go by Grant's Game Rex on TikTok, and Instagram, Grant's Game Rex on there as well. If you want to check out my Patreon, Grant's Game Rex on there. I'm in all of the places. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you found a game that you like. I hope you're out there playing stuff right now.